Hi, I'm Troy McClure, and you may remember me from Ferrari videos such as the F12 Ferrari TDF, which was filmed here for Autocar at Fiorano Circuit, which is Ferrari's ancient, lovely test track. Now, we'll have a look round in a moment, but today I'm here to test the 812 Competizione, which is the spiritual successor to that F12 TDF. And what Ferrari did with the F12 in TDF form is they wanted something very, very extreme. So they basically took a set of rear tyres off of an F12 and they stuck them on the fronts, and they thought, well, what does that do to the car? The answer is it makes it turn in unbelievably well, but also makes it pretty much undrivable. So they said, well, okay, well, how do we set about doing that? And bunged a load of electronics on it, which I'll come to in a moment, to do it. This is not exactly the same, but I think the principle is similar. This has really fat tyres, 275/35 ZR20s. This is a Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 Rs, which are basically as close to blue tack as you can get. Look, I don't know, is that going to focus on that close? But look, I mean, I don't have very long nails or anything, but that is it. They are unbelievably soft, and you have to get them unbelievably warm, warmer than this sort of cold grey morning is going to allow at the moment. So there is some stuff going on track, but it's just basically low speed car-to-car tracking shots and pictures until things warm up a bit, when I'll give you a piece to camera. But, so, an overview in the meantime of the car. It's quite a good looking thing, isn't it, I think. GT cars have that classic short tail, long nose kind of thing. Well, this has got more power than a standard 812 Superfast. It's got 830 horsepower, which is 820 brake, which is 30 more than a standard car, and it's naturally aspirated, which means it revs higher, so it revs to 9,500 RPM. You may hear one warming up in the background, which means it needs a little venting, so it vents out of these bonnet things here, which has given Ferrari's designers the opportunity to put this sort of strap over the bonnet. That has the visual effect, getting all designery on you now, that has the effect of visually shortening the bonnet, so it doesn't look like such a long bonneted GT car. It looks more like, I don't know, almost more mid-engined, and that's combined with this deck at the back instead of a rear screen, which helps sort of lengthen the cabin thing. And the idea is it makes it look a bit faster. On there, you have these vortices creating, I don't know, strakes, I suppose you'd call them. They take some of the high-speed air over here and they push it down towards the edge of this rear spoiler, which now goes the entire width of the car. The idea is you wouldn't necessarily get too much pressure on here from air moving around the edge if you didn't take some of the air, which is high speed because it's just come over the hump at the top, so it's moving quite quickly, and then it's pushed out to get a bit more downforce here. There is also a very wide diffuser underneath, and the reason that it can be so wide is the fact that the exhausts have been pushed all the way out to here. That is now an actual exhaust. It doesn't have any finisher, that is actually exhaust, that's where it finishes. Ferrari's V12 now, like all petrol cars, has a gasoline particulate filter, which means they can lose one of the mufflers because they mute sound anyway, and out the back they just have these, what they call sort of trombone-ish exhausts. They are square, so these exhausts run all the way through. They can run very wide, that gives more space for the diffuser underneath. While we're at the back, there is more aero here. Look, you may know some cars that kind of have little carbon fibre strakes sticking out the side. Well, these are cut into the bodywork, but they do a similar thing. They take high pressure air from the wheel well. How soft those are. They are well soft. And it goes in there and it creates a bit of extra downforce. Ferrari doesn't actually quote downforce figures necessarily all the way through the range. They say it makes more than an 812, which makes a modest amount at 200 kph. I think it's something like, is it 80 kilos at 200 kph, which is 120 miles an hour. But I was speaking to a chassis engineer the other day, and he said actually what you wouldn't believe is how much difference just a few kilos can make in terms of how a car feels, even at modest-ish road speeds. If you get 5-10 kilos, that actually makes quite a big difference. At the front there is more cooling to let air to the engine through this entire middle section, and then through these sections, left and right, the air is directed towards the brakes, or underneath the car towards that diffuser at the rear. These discs are, I believe, the same size as an 812 Superfast, but it runs SF90 calipers, which are, they claim, some kind of world first, because they are actually ventilated calipers to let air out of them. Inside, well, that's probably the least dramatic part of the car. It's all fairly 812-ish inside. This one's got harnesses. It's also got lots of leather. It's got Alcantara. There are loads of options. If you look through the price list, it's quite frightening. The base car's 450 grand. You get some carbon fibre as standard, but if you want to put carbon fibre seats in, other carbon fibre finishes everywhere else, you know, they're thousands of pounds at a time. But the cabin architecture is largely 812-ish. All right, so this is phase one, where I will be following round Raffaele Di Simone, who is a really lovely man, actually, and also Ferrari's kind of, I don't know exactly what his job title is, but he's their sort of lead development driver and attributes engineer, I think they would call it in somewhere English. He's kind of, if you want to know what a Ferrari feels like, he's the man who makes them feel like they do. So I'm going to do a couple of laps around after him, and then a bit later, I think they let me go without him. God, he's so cool, isn't he? Open face lid, shades.
Okay, radio check. Come on, everything is okay. Let's go. Rock and roll.
We can hear that. Rock and roll. He's a really lovely man. Sometimes at Ferrari, they get a little bit paranoid about what you do here, what you don't do here. Rafa's very relaxed, very cool. These tyres don't work. So this is the thing about these Cup 2R tyres. They do not work unless they're like 70 degrees or something like that. And this is a cold, overcast, grey day where they don't very easily get up to temperature. From experience, if you don't then keep the pressures right, they wear out unbelievably quickly. In fact, they wear out unbelievably quickly even if you do get the pressures right. Right, the car then. Feels quite stiff. We're in race mode on the Manettino. Look at that, he's actually warmed up the tyres by doing a bit of movement left and right. It is very responsive to the steering. All Ferraris are. Rafa likes them set up this way. The steering is quite light. It's very sharp. But these are very fat front tyres, so it responds really quickly. I can tell that even at sort of modest speeds. The gearbox is so quick, and the throttle response is so fast. These things sound unbelievably epic, don't they? They just sound great. For a warm-up, he's going reasonably briskly. So at the start of the straight, he's just said slow down. There's some flats right next door. They have some noisy days here and they have some quiet days here. I think if you were going to live next to Fiorano Test Track, you might want a noisy day every day, but they do have an area where they don't like too much noise. So roll is pretty well contained. There is some, you can feel this is a large car with stuff going on ahead of you. Wow, there is loads of front end grip. Moves around a touch, under braking. This car has the latest iteration of Ferrari's active rear steer. For the first time, it allows the rear wheels to steer independently of each other. So instead of both going the same way at the same extent, they can go more or less from the other independently. They tend to go up to a degree, less than a degree, unless you're at town speeds just doing low speed manoeuvring in a car park, in which case they can go up to like 2.5 degrees. But under braking, what that means is you can put toe in, you can toe the rear wheels in like that to add stability under braking. And then when you get to the corner, you can change the angle of the tyre to add a bit more traction on the way out of a corner.
Okay, tyres should be okay. Now we do 2 laps. A little bit quick.
Right, so tyres should be okay. 2 laps a little bit quick, he says. Well, let's see. Oh my God, what a noise. Oh, Lord alive. Oh man alive. So a TDF is actually quite such a spiky, difficult car. They say this is rather easier to drive than that. Wow, it does brake really brilliantly. It turns really sharply. Oh, but it brakes really stably, and then actually it is quite lively. I've got CT off rather than full ESC off. I'm not sure the rear steer is the most natural feeling rear steer system in the world still. Just as you get back on the power, there's lots and lots and lots of throttle response. Right, we have to just take it easy through here. Apparently, my Rafa seems to have made a sort of 150 yard gap on me through there. Oh, he's gone again. It's so quick. It generates lots and lots of grip on these tyres. They are bloody amazing. Wow, what a car. I might turn ESC off a bit later on if I have another go, but for now I'm leaving CT on because this just has the latest iteration of side-slip control, which just lets the car move into a little slide, makes you feel like the right sort of hero without throwing you off and being terrifying. But when it does move around, it does it fairly quickly. The brakes are fantastic, the gearbox is fantastic, the engine is fantastic.
Okay, cooling lap. Box this lap.
Oh, and we will box at the end of this lap, cooling down lap. I think I need to cool down as well. So, the engine's terrific, the gearbox is terrific, the braking is terrific. It looks off the scale. It turns. The turning is so quick. And then there's the balance on the way out. And on the way in, there's I mean, I've not turned in quickly enough to generate understeer. I don't know how quickly you'd have to try and turn in to generate understeer. And the balance on the way out is good. Is good. I want a bit more. I want a couple more laps to get on top of that. But the nice thing is,
driving at this speed, you can really feel the short wheelbase virtual.
Drive at this speed, you can really feel the short wheelbase. So they call it virtual short wheelbase. And that's what helped the TDF manage the amount of turn-in that it had. Almost would be a better description of virtual long wheelbase, because if you turn the wheels with the fronts, it calms the chassis down a little bit. And tries to calm down the amount of turn-in that it's got. But unlike a TDF, this has that generation of system moved on twice since then. It's moved on, and it's more natural in feel, it's more natural in reaction. This is a good driver's car. TDF was an exciting car, a spectacular car. I never felt truly comfortable driving it. This, I think you could drive the Jesus out of it and have a really good time. Like a 599 GTO, like a TDF, it is exciting, it is raw, it is visceral, it is all of those other things. But I think this has a level of composure that those other cars do not have. There are videos of those and other Ferraris and other cars elsewhere on the Autocar channel. Love it if you'd watch them. Love it if you'd give this a like. If you subscribe, you won't miss one. Really appreciate you watching. It's very kind of you. We're here at Autocar.co.uk. We're at YouTube. We're at all good news agents every Wednesday since 1895. See you next time.